Last night, I had the most vivid dream of my life. Or was it a vision? Whatever it was, it felt too real to ignore. I found myself in a place I've always wanted to visit, the United States. But this wasn't the land of freedom and opportunity I'd imagined. It was 2028, and the country was unrecognizable. At first, everything looked normal. I was standing in the middle of Times Square, the iconic neon signs flickering brightly above me. People bustled past, their faces buried in their phones, the constant hum of traffic filling the air. For a moment, I thought this was just another lucid dream where I got to explore. But then, I noticed something strange. The advertisements weren't for products or entertainment. Instead, the screens were filled with government propaganda, messages about unity, survival, and sacrifice. One screen flashed the words, "Our fight is for freedom. Stand strong against the world." I turned to see a military convoy rolling down the street. Soldiers stood at attention, their faces hardened and emotionless. Civilians watched nervously, some whispering to each other, others avoiding eye contact entirely. Something wasn't right. A nation under siege, I walked further into the city, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It wasn't long before I overheard people talking, fragments of conversations that painted a chilling picture. "They're cutting off our supplies again," one man muttered, his voice filled with anger. A woman responded, "We shouldn't have pushed them. Now we're paying the price." As I listened, I began to piece together the story. The United States was at war, not with a single nation, but with the entire world. Years of diplomatic breakdowns, trade disputes, and cyber conflicts had escalated into global hostility. The U.S., once a leader on the world stage, had become isolated and defiant, and the world fought back. Economic sanctions had crippled the country. Trade routes were blocked, resources were scarce, and chaos reigned. But this wasn't just a war fought on distant battlefields. It was happening right here, in the streets. I passed by a grocery store with its windows shattered. People were fighting over loaves of bread and bottles of water. Soldiers stood guard outside, rifles in hand, trying to maintain order. The tension was palpable. The sky was no longer ours. As I looked up, I noticed something even more terrifying. The sky was filled with drones, hundreds of them, buzzing like mechanical wasps. Some were military, patrolling the city, while others appeared to be foreign, scanning for targets. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. The ground shook, and I saw a plume of smoke rising from what looked like the Brooklyn Bridge. Panic spread through the crowd as people ran for cover, their screams cutting through the air. I tried to follow them, but someone grabbed my arm. "You don't belong here." I turned to see a man dressed in a tattered hoodie, his face hidden in shadow. His grip was firm, but his tone was more curious than threatening. "What do you mean?" I asked. He studied me for a moment before replying, "You're not from here, are you? You don't know what's happening." I shook my head, unsure how to respond. "The world turned on us," he said, his voice low. "We thought we could do whatever we wanted, control everything, take what we needed, but we underestimated them. Now, we're paying the price." I wanted to ask more, but he suddenly tensed. "You need to go, they're watching." Before I could say anything, he disappeared into the crowd. A glimpse of the past or the future? I wandered through the city, trying to process what I'd just heard. Everywhere I looked, there were signs of struggle. Boarded-up buildings, makeshift shelters, families huddled together for warmth. And yet, amidst the chaos, there were glimmers of resilience. People helping each other, sharing what little they had. A group of children playing in the rubble, laughing as if the world around them wasn't falling apart. I couldn't help but wonder, was this the result of greed, pride, and arrogance? Or was it something else entirely? Was this war inevitable? Or could it have been prevented? The final scene. As the sun began to set, casting an eerie orange glow over the city, I found myself near the Hudson River. I stood there watching as ships moved silently through the water, their shapes barely visible in the fading light. Suddenly, a deafening roar filled the air. I looked up to see a fleet of planes streaking across the sky, their engines leaving trails of smoke behind them. The city's defenses sprang to life, anti-aircraft guns firing into the darkness. The night was filled with chaos, explosions, gunfire, screams, and then everything went silent. I woke up, or did I? As I lay in bed, my heart racing, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a dream. It felt too real, too vivid. Was this a warning, a glimpse of a possible future, or something else entirely? I don't have the answers, but I want to hear from you. What do you think caused this war? Was it greed, politics, something we haven't even considered? Let me know your theories in the comments. And one more question for you. Do you think this is a vision of what's to come, or just a figment of my imagination?